Welcome back to Football Daily, where today we're taking a look at 10 players let go by clubs at a young age and have gone on to have impressive careers. We did a video similar to this a couple of years ago, so don't expect to see Harry Kane or Declan Rice pop up here. Let's get started. 10. Tyrone Mings. He may have had his troubles this campaign, but that hasn't stopped Tyrone Mings from consolidating himself as a regular Premier League starter. The 29-year-old recovered from two serious injuries at Bournemouth that ruled him out for the entirety of both the 2015-16 and 2017-18 campaigns, before the Cherries sold him to Aston Villa for £25 million in 2019. Now a mainstay at Villa Park, even being named captain following Jack Grealish's 2021 departure to Man City, and with 17 England caps to his name, it's hard to imagine Mings never not reaching the heights he has. But back in 2009, his career almost ended before it started, with Southampton calling time on his academy tenure at the age of 16, deeming the then 5'8" defender too small to make the grade. Working his way through the non-league while working as a mortgage advisor, Mings ultimately got his big break when Championship side Ipswich Town paid 7th tier Chippenham Town £10,000 for his services in 2012. And 13 years on, he's now 6'5", a full 9 inches taller than when the Saints let him go as a schoolboy. If they just waited, at the very least they may have been able to make decent money selling a talented youngster. 9. Joao Felix. Spending €127 million on Joao Felix might now be very difficult for Atletico Madrid to justify, but back in 2019, fans of Los Colchoneros were certain they were getting world football's newest star. Only 19 at the time, the attacker just completed his debut campaign with Benfica, and what an entrance to professional football he made. Felix scored 15 goals and set up 7 more in 1,700 Primera Liga minutes for the Eagles as they won the title, equal to a goal every 79 minutes, something only Kylian Mbappe, Lionel Messi and Paco Alcacer could top in 2018-19, and in all competitions the teenager topped 30 goal involvements and also became the Europa League's youngest ever hat-trick scorer. Just 4 years earlier, however, Felix wasn't in the Benfica system. He was actually part of the setup at rivals Porto, who he joined as an 8-year-old before being released at 15 due to his small frame, although the player claims the decision to leave was his choice. Regardless, Felix went on to excel in Lisbon, earning them a fee triple anything Porto have ever received for a player that came through their ranks. 8. Klaas-Jan Huntelaar. Over the course of 2 decades, Klaas-Jan Huntelaar established himself as an elite European goalscorer, and after scoring more than a goal a game at youth level, he made his first team debut with PSV at 19. In 2004, he was sold to Eredivisie rivals Heerenveen for barely €1 million, and after 17 goals in 15 matches the subsequent campaign, Ajax snapped him up, and he topped a century of strikes before moving to Real Madrid in 2009 for €27 million. Huntelaar would even go on to be the most prolific scorer for the Netherlands since Johan Cruyff, averaging 0.55 goals per international game. For a club that, like most Dutch sides, pride themselves on youth development, missing out on that fee would have been a huge blow to PSV, especially when they'd helped create a legend for a rival who then also cashed in on their mistake. It wasn't all bad for PSV though. 7 Eredivisie titles during the noughties meant Huntelaar wouldn't collect a winner's medal with Ajax until he returned in 2018. 7. Samueletto. Not just the greatest Cameroonian footballer of all time, Samuel Eto'o is undoubtedly one of the greatest strikers of the 21st century. In a 7-year period from 2004 to 2011, he scored 183 goals for Barcelona and Inter Milan, even becoming the only player in European history to win back-to-back continental trebles in 2009 and 2010. But his first foray into professional football was with Real Madrid, who he joined as a 16-year-old in 1997, making just 3 appearances before Los Blancos determined he wasn't up to their standards. They sold him to Mallorca for €7 million in 2000, a record for the island side, and even before Barca snapped him up 4 years later, he'd haunt his old team. In 2003, he scored in Mallorca's shock 5-1 demolition of Real Madrid, their only home defeat as they won La Liga that year. The next season though, Eto'o had a bigger effect on their title chances, netting twice in a 3-2 victory that officially ruled his former side out of contention, again at the Bernabeu. Eto'o would go on to score 11 and set up 5 more against Los Blancos throughout his career. Against no other side did he contribute more. 6. Antoine Griezmann. Regardless of his reputation now, Antoine Griezmann has been one of France's best players for the best part of a decade. Since making his debut for Les Bleus in 2014, he's appeared in 110 matches, 6th on the all-time list, while his 42 international goals ranks behind only Thierry Henry and Olivier Giroud. But somewhat unusually, the forward not only has never played professionally for a French side, he also never turned out for a reputable French academy team, and clubs definitely had their chance to grab him. Born in Marcon and playing locally, he grew up a fan of nearby Ligue 1 side Olympique Lyon, who rejected a 14-year-old Griezmann on the basis he was too small. Montpellier, Nice and Saint-Etienne all also turned down the promising youngster, as Griezmann ultimately moved over 800 kilometers away to pursue his dream with Real Sociedad in Spain, spending 4 years in the system before making over 200 appearances for the first team, ahead of a €30 million move to Atletico Madrid. However, Lyon remained close to Griezmann's heart, and Legon love a homegrown talent. There's no doubt they'd love him if he was one of their own. 5. Jamie Vardy. Few can claim to be Premier League greats despite not making their debut in the competition until the second half of their career, but that is very much what Jamie Vardy is. Complimented by Pep Guardiola as one of the best strikers he has ever seen, the Leicester man has 133 top-flight goals, sandwiched between Robin van Persie and Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank in the all-time top scorers list. His Premier League debut came with Leicester at 27 and was over a decade in the making, after being released by boyhood club Sheffield Wednesday as a 16-year-old for, yes you guessed it, being too small, meaning he'd spend the next 7 years at 8th tier Stockbridge Park Steels. From there he joined Halifax Town and then Fleetwood, who he led into the Football League in 2012 before Leicester made him non-league's first £1 million footballer. Now 35 and a Premier League winner, Vardy's career is slowly winding down, with retirements likely on the horizon. However, he is still a loyal Owls fan. In the unlikely event they offer him the opportunity to see out his career at Hillsborough, we can't see him saying no. 4. Marcus Rashford. It's impossible to imagine Marcus Rashford playing for anyone else other than Man United. Born in nearby Wythenshawe, he grew up a fan of the club and entered the Old Trafford Academy when he was just 7 years old. 17 years on, and the forward is already a club icon, having topped 300 appearances and being within touching distance of a century of goals. But it could have been very different. While Rashford himself was a fan of United, his family actually had split loyalties between them and Man City, while where he lived was a stone throw away from the Sky Blues' former home of Main Road. And as it happened amid interest from both Everton and Liverpool as well, City were the first club to take Rashford in for trials. He spent a week with them, and a former coach of Rashford recalls that they reportedly said they'd build their youth teams around him as he progressed through the age groups. But United came in at the last minute, offering a personalised training regime, and that was enough for a young Rashford to choose them over their rivals. They've reaped the rewards so far. 3. Jeremie Frimpong. With an ever-growing football empire, it is an inevitability that some players won't quite make the grade at the City Football Group, but go on to be successful elsewhere. Seko Fofana is the talisman of an impressive Lens side in Ligue 1, and Brahim Diaz has found his groove at AC Milan, and the latest former Man City prospect to make his mark elsewhere is Bayer Leverkusen's Jeremie Frimpong. Born in the Netherlands, the right-back's family moved to England when he was just 7, and by the time he was 9, Frimpong was already part of the City setup. Over the subsequent decade, he'd feature regularly in major youth competitions, but in 2019, an 18-year-old Frimpong wasn't considered good enough to make the step up, and would sign for Celtic for a little over £300,000. He very much made his name in Scotland before Bayer Leverkusen came calling to the tune of £10 million in 2021, and he's now established himself as first choice for the Bundesliga side. And now there are reports that Man United are interested in Frimpong, a sign of just how well the Dutch youth international has developed since leaving England 3 years ago. 2. Serge Gnabry. When Arsenal paid Stuttgart £100,000 for a 15-year-old Serge Gnabry in 2010, the Gunners thought they were onto something. Joining the club for the 2011-12 season, the teenager would already be a regular in the reserves a year later, and made his senior debut early the next campaign. But Gnabry could never quite make a full breakthrough at the Emirates, and following just one appearance for Tony Pulis West Brom on loan in 2015-16, was sold to Werder Bremen for £5 million against manager Arsene Wenger's wishes. And well, Arsene was proven right. In just one season at Bremen, a 21-year-old Gnabry scored 11 goals and earned himself a move to Bayern Munich, barely 18 months after failing to get on the field at the Hawthorns. A year on loan with Hoffenheim was next before Gnabry quickly established himself as an integral part of the Bayern side, and is now closing in on 200 appearances for the German Giants, averaging over 25 goal involvements in each full season with them. The 27-year-old even has 20 goals in just 36 games for Germany. Just imagine how good he could have looked in this Arsenal side right now. 1. Marco Reus. Few players are as synonymous with one club in Europe than Marco Reus is with Borussia Dortmund. Since joining in 2012, the attacker has made over 350 appearances for the club, scored over 150 goals and set up more than a century more, meaning he's been involved in a goal every 104 minutes for BVB for over a decade. But Reus's career was close to having a completely different outcome. He first joined the youth ranks at Leverkusen in 1996, when he was just 7 years old, and spent the next 11 years working his way through the youth ranks before being released, ending up at third-tier Rot-Weiss Aalen. Borussia Mönchengladbach would then sign him for €1 million in 2009, and after netting 18 goals for the Bundesliga side in 2011-12, aged just 22, would be the subject of a €17 million bid from former club Dortmund. Of course, we all know what happened next. Now 33, Captain Reus has his heart set on retiring with BVB in what has turned out to be a very happy ending for both player and club. So those were our 10 academy rejects that proved your club wrong, but can you name any more? Let us know and we may do a part 3. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to Football Daily if you haven't done so already. Thanks for watching, we'll see you next time.